So Australia had a very strong space industry kind of in the 50s and 60s. You know, we were the third or fourth country to launch a satellite from its own soil into orbit.
Probably because we're so far from everyone else, we had to figure out how to communicate with them.
Well, yeah, if it didn't go well, then it didn't really result in anything bad. But, you know, you think of America, Russia, these countries launching satellites as being pretty straightforward. But, you know, Australia's number 3, I think it was. And we've now got the kind of Space 2.0 industry in its infancy. So the establishment of the Australian space industry back in 2018 went a long way to doing that, because what having a space agency means for Australia is that simply from a bureaucratic perspective, it can interface with other space agencies. So that's like NASA or the European Space Agency or the Japanese Space Agency, JAXA.
So we've got our own NASA. It's just not called NASA.
Yeah, absolutely. We have our own NASA down in Adelaide. And now because of that, we can start to participate in some of the programs, because quite simply there was no mechanism for a company to want to get into the industry to interface with other agencies, because there's a lot of collaboration that goes on in the space industry at all levels. It's just kind of inherent in how we deliver those services in the industry. So now that we have that, it's great because companies can start up and stay here. Beforehand, we get a lot of brain drain where people would start the company and then move over to the USA. Now, for example, certain technologies can't leave the USA, so you have to launch an American satellite from American soil. Why would I have a business set up in Australia if I'm going to have to be in America to be where the action is, to be where the regulation supports me?
And so now you can launch an Australian satellite
Absolutely.
from Australia.
Now we have companies that are building launch facilities in Australia.
It's interesting. I heard Elon Musk talking once about the importance of the fundamental infrastructure for companies to operate in. And he was talking about it in the sense of the infrastructure for space exploration. You know, if space travel was there, then companies could use that infrastructure to create business and to solve problems there. And so kind of, I feel like that's what you're describing. The infrastructure for our space industry in terms of satellite was not there. Australia's created, what was it called? That's awesome, the Australian Space Agency.
Australian Space Agency,
and that's given people like you and your incredible team the ability, the infrastructure to then play on the global market in terms of offering, in terms of jumping in with your business and
it's given,
offering services.
It's a great incentive for Australian businesses to set up and solve problems in space, because we can employ Australians, we can keep it all here, and we can build this sovereign capability for Australia's benefit instead of kind of buying it from offshore.